find. And if you would mind signing that, that'd be great. There's a lot of, they left it, Katie had that printed up, so there's a lot of extra room around the outside to sign it. So please take advantage of that. And also, if you didn't get a chance to get your cards in, where are they at, guys? Back over there on the other table. So I'll tell you what, Molly, do you mind taking the card basket over there so we could just keep them both in the same location? So that would be good. Okay. Also, while we're having this little presentation, if you need to, if you want to grab a little dessert, or so you're not going to offend Grant or Pat or the rest of us, so that's fine. All right. Why don't we get Grant up here? And Pat has not only served as a clerk, but she has been a ladies' Sunday school teacher. Pat also directed the choir. She's been a part of the choir. Grant used to play the piano for decades. I think you started out when you were about 14, Grant?
12.
When he was 12, he started playing piano here. And basically, it was not until arthritis really twisted his fingers around where he couldn't play anymore that he stopped. So, all right, we'd like to start by giving you folks a plaque. And it's got a picture of the church on it. We thought this would be nice for them to be able to take back to their house. And it says, to Grant and Pat Sheard, thank you for your decades of loving service at Calkins Baptist Church. And on the bottom of it is a scripture verse, moreover, it is required in stewards that one be found faithful. So, congratulations. Take a look at that.
Thank you. Very nice. Thank you.
Good. All right, and... Yep. Yeah, they want. There you go. Okay. Yeah. I didn't. Thank you, Josh.
To make sure that we thank Pat, because we know what a blessing
That's
she's been.
oh,
So I
aren't
hope
they
that you will
beautiful?
enjoy them.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Good, Mike.
The church also has a $150 gift certificate to the Nürnberger restaurant. The church has a $150 gift certificate for the Nürnberger restaurant on Lake Ariel Highway in Lake Ariel. Good German restaurant. We thought you would enjoy that. So that's in here
Thank you.
for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'll give you a hug later.
That's okay. You want to sit and talk?
Now, I'm gonna have to have a little table there to put this up
Okay,
on.
great. We'll do that. All right. We're gonna let Grant and Pat sit here in the blue chairs, and we need a little table. So. Hey, what? Hey, Grant, are you okay?
Well, thank you so much.
No, can you hear?
Can I hear? I can hear.
Yeah, you can hear. Yeah, we're the ones that can't hear, so we're here.
Well, first of all, we feel very humbled because it's not our nature to seek attention. And it's sort of a little bit out of our comfort zone to do this, but by the same token, we really appreciate it. And I got a few statistics and a few stories. I certainly don't want to bore you, but I think it's very interesting the way the Lord has taken this church from practically nothing, I mean really nothing, to where it is today. We just assume that this is the way it always was. I can tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. I won't reveal all all the sources because they are probably true. And I've got a lot of things I could share with you. But I came up with something. I just discovered that we are the 1%ers. And I just learned that Dave and Glossinger is older than I am. Now, by 1%ers, we mean somebody who lived during the Second World War. Is there anybody in here that can top Dave and myself? Okay. So we're called the 1%ers.
Okay.
K, oh, a K. Okay. So I have been, I guess, appointed as a self-appointed historian for the church. It's one of my passions. I've always tried history, and I've have at home collected over the years 23 loose leaf folders of notebooks this thick, 23 of them. Now, I don't know who's going to take over after I'm gone, but it's got a lot of interesting things in it. There's documents, original documents of deeds. There's lots of pictures, a lot of correspondence between whomever, you know, all the things in there about the Myers Trust and all kind of things that I've collected over the years. Bulletins, correspondence, a lot of photos. Most of the people in the photos are dead, but it's kind of interesting to look back and see who was here. We have minutes of the deacons' meetings and all sorts of things I have in those things. And they're down in my basement, and there's 23 of them. And they take a whole row. So I don't know who's ever going to want to take on the job as church historian. But the job will soon be open. So I just wanted you to know that. I always say, don't take life too seriously. It's not permanent. So you're going to find some interesting things I think I will mention. First of all, I have something that I had written up several years ago, and this is a brief history of the Calkins Baptist Church, and I've taken it from those books that I just explained. For many years during the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, the church had a congregation of a mixture of Methodists and Baptists. During this time, there were more Methodists than Baptists. We had no full-time minister, so for many years we shared ministers from Beach Lake Methodist Church and the Honesdale Baptist Church. Both churches were under their conference of their denomination. So whoever the denominations chose to be the pastors were the pastors that Calkins got. Since there were more Methodists than Baptists, the arrangement was Calkins would have the Methodist minister for 2 consecutive Sundays, and on the third Sunday, we would have a Baptist minister from Honesdale. Now, on the Sunday the Baptist minister was to preach, someone from our church would start the service, and that more than likely was Everett Munster. You probably don't know Eddie. He was one of our stalwarts here when I was a kid, a great guy, raised into the Van Lins. But he would probably start the service with hymns and announcements. The Honesdale Baptist service was ending as ours was beginning. So by the time it took for him to drive to Calkins, we had all the preliminaries done, and so when the minister arrived, he would just preach the sermon. During the 1975 annual meeting, someone, and I'm not sure who this was because Pastor asked me if I knew, and I really don't, of the possibility of us becoming self-sufficient. We got kind of tired of swapping ministers and trying to find a full-time minister for ourselves. A committee was appointed to examine the feasibility of such a decision. After many meetings, both with members and various ministers, it was decided that indeed we could have our own minister. The committee then presented to the congregation a choice of several denominations on which to vote. Now, if you thought that was a lot of challenges, we had the superintendent of the Methodist Conference and the superintendent of the Baptist Conference speak to the congregations as to why we should vote for their denomination. The superintendent from the Methodist did not make a very good impression with the congregation, plus the fact that their doctrine was becoming much more liberal at that time. The head of the Baptist Conference was Reverend Leland Pease, who has also made a presentation to the congregation. He related very well with most people. A vote was taken in the fall of 1976, and the majority of the congregation felt that we should go to the Independent Baptist Church. So on December 19th, 1976, we voted on a church covenant, which was signed by most members and is now hanging on the wall in the annex. If you go out the door, you'll see it hanging there today with all the names on there. Good many of them are dead. Most of them are still there, but it's very interesting to see the original church covenant. It's all framed, and I'd suggest you go take a look at it sometime. Now we were one congregation. However, as to be expected, there were different doctrinal philosophies, as now the church should be run. The congregation called our first pastor on April of 1977. It's a long time ago. His name was William Dalrymple. He was fresh out of the seminary, and he really did not have any experience shepherding a church. We probably should have known better, but he sold us a bill of goods. We had no parsonage, so we rented a small apartment from Bob and Ruth Sheard, distant relatives. Just down the road on the left-hand side is where he lived in a small little apartment. We had 37 families move their membership to our new church by the end of 1977. However, at the same time, our new pastor decided he could not work with our congregation. So on November 6, 1977, he submitted his resignation. Also at this time, several members or families from the congregation turned in their membership and moved to the United Methodist Church in Beach Lake or other churches in the area. So they just, they didn't stay to fight, they just disappeared on us. The Lord blessed us with a retired pastor from Sussex, New Jersey. His name was Reverend Ray Friedley. He and his wife, Dorothy, drove up every Sunday to preach. This was the arrangement until the church bought a small parsonage, a small house that Bill Vandelin, Sr., had built for speculation. The house was purchased for $32,000 in the fall of 1978. So now the Friedleys had a place to stay. They would come up on Sunday and go back home to Sussex on Tuesday. Reverend Friedley, I gotta tell you something about him. He played the saxophone. He would make Boots Randolph look silly. I mean, he just did a great job playing the sax. And he would challenge our daughters, Kim and Jennifer, to run. They would start down by Josh's office, and they'd start off right there, and they'd run up to the bridge. He would beat them every time. These kids, and how old were they? Could the girls be?
About 10 and 12.
10 or 12. Reverend Friedley would beat them. He could outrun them. And it was very interesting that. So in 1980, we hired another minister, full-time. His name was Tom Fuller. And he was, and his family resided in the parsonage until he resigned in 1982. But back up. He first proposed that we have an evening service. I said to myself, you've got to be kidding. Because I've had many paradigm changes in my life since I started back at that age. I said, I watched Wild Kingdom with Marlon Perkins at that time. And you think I want to mix that to go to church on Sunday night? Well, I said, right away he got off on the wrong start with me. But anyway, he and his family resided in the Milanville parsonage until he resigned in 1982. It was Tom Fuller, George Hawker, and myself who walked around the property in the back of the church and prayed that the Lord would open up an opportunity for us to purchase land. Now, you got to understand something. At that point in time, we had exactly 1/4 acre of land where the original church is parked right there. That's all we owned. We had nowhere else to go. We were praying for our land. So where we walked back of the church, and probably somewhere in the area where Pat and I are sitting is where we prayed that the Lord would open up an opportunity for us to buy land. Richard Duffy was the man that owned the land. He had it willed to him when the family that lived there passed away. So right after he resigned, we hired another full-time pastor. I'm not going to mention names, but he was a disaster. He was in it for himself. Whatever he could fleece out of the congregation, he had one person provide him all his gas and he'd food and so forth. And then in the process, his daughter got pregnant somewhere along the way, and he, it was a disaster. You got to trust me on that one. But he came highly recommended, but that was a big mistake. He was our pastor until we got rid of him in 1983. By that time, there was only about a dozen families left in the congregation. I mean, they just disappeared like that. Later in 1983, we hired another full-time pastor. I won't mention his name. And he was here until he resigned. Under very sad circumstances. He had a moral issue. He was teaching at the Damascus Christian School. This was before anybody that was there now. He got a teacher pregnant, and it just was a very good testimony for the Calkins Baptist Church. So that was a big thing we had to contend with. He left in 1986, and then we had Rand Kaiser, who is still preaching today. What church is he in, Pastor? South Clinton Baptist Church. And he is a true man of God, and what a blessing he was. So by this time, some of the original congregation were again members, but some of the families were now attending in 1988. And in 1988, through Rural Home Missions, which is a missionary which helps support churches to get pastors. And through that, we got Richard Buchanan. Richard Buchanan served as our pastor until 1996. He was a real blessing. And he was here for the time that what the church needed. And he was a great person. Maybe you could just mention something about Pastor Buchanan.
Pastor Buchanan, he, like Pastor Jones and Molly, the community loved him. He was always there for the community. Mary, his wife, was a people person. She, would just be with anybody. And the community loved him. Not only the church, but the community, just like they all love Pastor Jones also. But back at that point in time, if we had, now look at our congregation that we had even this morning, there were quite a few missing. If we had 35 people for a Sunday morning service, it was a lot. We would rejoice with that because we thought, oh, look, the church is growing. But little did we know how far the church would come. And we've been through a lot, but it's important that we have steadfastness in church. Church people should be steadfast. Go ahead, you.
I think it's very important to, in conclusion, I'm about done. I don't want to bore you to death. But some of the things I think that is very important is to be faithful. If you're a member of a church, and if you're coming here all the time, you should think about becoming a member. Let's get baptized and go through the process with Pastor Jones, and step up to the plate. That's going to be something that I think is very critical. And so when you're at this point in life, it's important to be not only be faithful to attend church, but also to be here at meetings and to be, when the church is open and you're a part of it, my feeling is that you should be part of it. And so I would also like just something else I had here. Bear with me. I think some of the things I've learned, in conclusion, okay, I promise, is you got to be faithful. And I have tried in my later years, I had a big paradigm shift I had to go through. But in later years, I have tried to be faithful as much as I could. I've had some challenges health-wise that prevented me, and a lot of times from coming, and I can't promise I'll be here every service from here on in, because it just doesn't work that way for me. So I think it's important to set an example, be attending church, be here for every meeting that goes on. Set the example. And what can you do to be an example? Well, first of all, people look more at what you do than what you say. I always said that it's good to be a blessing to somebody. I like to give encouragement to people. There's too many negative things going on in our world today, and it could be either a phone call or a positive word. It could be a blessing to someone. Because how many times do you get compliments? Could be a phone call, could be a note of encouragement. And I think something that we've missed, and of course it goes all the way back to Luke 17, being thankful. Do you remember the story of the 10 lepers who were begging Jesus to heal them? Have mercy on me, they said. So Jesus healed them. But guess what? Only one came back to offer the thanks, and that's in Luke 17. It hasn't changed. It's the same way today. You could do something for somebody and don't expect to get all kinds of accolades because it ain't going to happen. So just accept that. You can do something wonderful for somebody, and you wonder if they appreciate it, but you know that that's the law of the jungle. Times have not changed, as I said. That's just the way it is. And so what we need is some younger people to step up to the plate and say, I'll do that. I'll volunteer. I'll take your place. If somebody wants to do something, the church needs somebody, why then you should do it. So with that, I thank you for this opportunity. I hope I did not bore you, but there's a lot of, I got stories that come out your ears, but I won't bother you anymore with that. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your attendance, and Have a good afternoon. Gentlemen.
Okay, you signed off.
Good, all right, we got some cake over there, and we want some pictures over there too, all right? So you guys can make your way over. And let's just have a word of prayer and thank the Lord for Grant and Pat for this time together. Father, thank you so much for Grant and Pat, for the blessing they've been. Bless their lives, Lord, as they continue on, and we thank you for we're a richer congregation because of their faithful service here. May they know our love for them, and we know that it's the right thing to be thankful and grateful. And thank you for this time together. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.